Welcome back to Game Club. We have a special episode this month. As we did last year, we're going to rank all of the games we've played this year because, to be fair, I have a problem. I need to rank everything. Before we get into the list, let's talk about our next game. This will be our game that we'll talk about the third week in January 2021. Metro 2033 Redux. I guess you could probably play the original if you want. I don't know what the differences are. We'll probably talk about that during the episode, but like Moon said, we haven't really played a shooter in kind of a long time. So we're going to play Metro 2033 Redux. All right, let's get into the ranking here. This is number one. This one's going to be really hard because, man, did we play a slew of bangers this year. If you haven't listened to We Roguelike It, you should. It's great. Or you didn't listen to last year's ranking episode, you should go listen to that too. It was really fun. Basically, we have all of our games in a chronological order, starting with Talos Principle, ending with Eichenfell. We're going to, if you're watching the video version, over here on the right-hand side, on this green screen over here, we've got our giant list of games we played. We're going to rank them. We're going to talk about whether one is better than the other as we sort of move them around our list. You'll pick up on it as we go along. Let's dive right into it. First game was the Talos Principle. Let's drag it here onto the list. Number one. All right, let's go. By the way, we'll talk about a lot of these games as we go, sort of talking about pluses and negatives. Talos Principle, that ended up in my Games of the Generation list. That's how much I like Talos Principle. That's a really great game.
Shocking portal kind of game.
Yeah, like I think what we talked about was like when you look at Talos Principle from the outside, it's sort of like, yeah, there's like a cat on the cover with a robot. That's weird. And you start it, and you're like, yeah, okay, it's like a portal like thing. And very quickly, it's like, no, it's really not. It is really significantly more detail and than that is. Talos Principle is great.
It's a really cool game.
Yeah. Next game is This Is the Police 2. Is that better than the Talos Principle?
Oh, God. Really?
Already starting with the really hard one. I'll go first. I don't think so. As much as I liked This Is the Police 2, I think Talos Principle for me wins out by just a little bit. If we're talking about the first This Is the Police, probably. But 2, I think we agreed, had some sort of story tone problems, especially over the first one, that I think kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. And I think the SRPG sort of like XCOM stuff they did was kind of cool, but maybe not 100% necessary. I think This Is a Police 2 is good, but maybe not better than Talos Principle.
I agree with that. This Is the Police 2, I think, had some better soundtrack songs in it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But overall, in terms of gameplay and flow, I mean, we're ultimately talking about two games I never beat.
Right. Well, and they couldn't be more different. Like that's the hard part about it's a little bit easier on We Roguelike It because we're rating, is this roguelike better than this roguelike? And this is this existential puzzle game featuring robots better than this visual novel XCOM game featuring crooked cops? Like it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, We Roguelike it's like comparing Granny Smiths to cooking apples, whereas this is like literally comparing an apple to a banana.
Right. What do you think, Moon?
For me, This Is the Police 2 goes above it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I know that this is for you guys both liked the Talos Principle. We all loved it. I think you guys liked it a little bit more than I did. It could also be because I played the stupidly difficult DLC in it.
Yeah, that's going to change your opinion, sort of, in general.
It's only my own fault, which I'm perfectly fine with admitting that, but I can go with the consensus here. Like, they're both very good, and if we have to split them up by one slot, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
This Is the Police 2 can stay below.
All right, let's move Stardew Valley over. Is Stardew Valley better than This Is the Police 2?
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed. Is Stardew Valley better than the Talos Principle?
100%.
Yes. Yeah, Stardew Valley is... We just talked about Eichenfell last month. Stardew Valley is another one of those games where it's like, man, I'm just playing something special. Like, this is really a labor of love. This is something really well crafted. Certainly, again, not without its faults, but this is just something that's really just charming and fun, and whoops, I spent 150 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, like, oops, I started another save file, and oops, there goes another 200 hours, and oops, now my wife is playing it, and oops, now it's 3-player Stardew Valley. It's just like, oh no.
Yeah. Next thing comes the spreadsheets.
Dude, I literally have the spreadsheets open on my tablet where I can color them in when I've caught those fish. So
there you go.
Yes, the spreadsheets exist.
Yeah. Stardew Valley is really great. All right. Poi. Is Poi better than This Is the Police 2?
Nope. Sorry,
No.
Poi, you stay right at the bottom in this case,
Yeah.
mate.
I think Poi is a really fun game, and I think it's a really solid experience, but I think it's one of those games that's probably going to end up in like the middle of this list, just because it's good. It's not bad. It's not, Stardew Valley. It's not, any of these kind of the top tier games, but it's solid. It's good.
Yeah. It was one of those games that, like, thanks, Giant Bomb. I just saw a quick look off and was like, you know what? It looks like a decent little ode to Mario 64, so let's just throw her on the list and see how it goes.
Yeah. All right, Slayaway Camp. Is Slayaway Camp better than Poi?
Yeah, I think it is.
Oh, really? I was gonna say no, actually. I guess I'm splitting hairs. I could go either way, but for me, like, I'm not a platformer fan. Slayaway Camp feels cheap in a number of respects, in my opinion.
Oh,
and like
probably because I'm pretty sure it was a mobile game before it came to console.
Yeah.
Poi has a certain level of polish and fidelity to the world that I think kind of puts it above Slayaway Camp for me. Plus, the mechanics of Slayaway Camp are in another game that we played this year.
Right.
Yeah, I'm talking about. I can see either way. They're both actually really good labors of love. Like, Poi is obviously a case of let's make Super Mario 64, and Slayaway Camp is we like horror movies. Look at all of the references we can throw into these horror movies and all of our stuff.
Right.
It was getting the ridiculous avatars for that game, and kind of trouncing stuff with it. I don't know. Maybe those puzzles were just too hard for me. When I think of Poi, I think about that cool sky and going between the airships and things like that. But
yeah, I think I would put Poi above Slayaway Camp because I feel like if you're comparing the two of them directly, I think Poi has a lot of variety of content. Like, sure, it has like an ice world and a snow world and that horrible machine world that you had to do in the dark for far too long. But it also has like those cool speedrun levels. It has seemingly about 4 million things hidden in it. And I feel like
it has a new game plus where you literally have to beat the game without getting hit once.
Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff, and I feel like Slayaway Camp, not in an inherently bad way. It's a little bit one note. Like, obviously, look, I love The Witness. There's literally one type of puzzle in that game. So, like, I think you can do a lot of interesting stuff with that, but I think Slayaway Camp, if there was a Slayaway Camp 2, I feel like they would probably resolve those issues. But for me, Slayaway Camp is just sort of like, okay, like, yeah, kind of, after the first hour, I feel like I kind of seen everything this game has to offer.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Honestly, Slayaway Camp's biggest flaw, I would say, is just how complicated that thing gets.
Yeah.
Because it gets so bad with, like, oh, don't kill any cats and turn off the lights and de-electrify the fences and then go kill these people and
use
turn the lights
phones.
back
on.
Yeah.
Don't fall in the water.
Right, right. Yeah. All right. God, here's a tough one. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Is that better than Slayaway Camp?
Yes.
Better than Poi?
Yes.
Better than This Is the Police 2?
Yep.
Yes.
Better than Talos Principle.
Yep.
Yep.
Better than Stardew Valley. Boy, couldn't be any more in the opposite. This is a real like Doom Animal Crossing matchup.
Yeah. I don't know
Sucks.
where you guys are gonna land. For me, it's better. I like it better than Stardew, but I completely understand if you guys don't.
Mm-hmm.
Moon, what's your case for it stopping?
For me, it stops here for 2 reasons. Number one, it's broken. Very broken.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for fan patches and that rabid cult fan base that we all love, looking at you, Alpha Protocol,
right.
like, this game wouldn't be anywhere near as playable as it is. And it's very playable right now.
Yeah.
Just, break the game. Don't launch it from the original launcher. Launch it from this fan patch launcher instead.
Right.
It's a great game. Talking about Vampire Masquerade, it's a great game. I am super hyped for the second game.
Yes, very much so.
Solely off playing this game.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 2 juggernauts right now, so like,
right.
And that's going to be a large, like, we have more juggernauts coming. Like,
yeah,
we do. I love Vampire. I think it's fantastic. I think the voice acting is great. I just think it's maybe a little too 90s. It feels very Blade Trinity, for lack of a better way to phrase it.
Right. Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah.
Whereas, honestly, Stardew feels like an evergreen game. I mean, that thing came out like 5-6 years ago, whatever it was, Stardew, and I put it in and the patches and everything else they've done to it, and it's like, oh, it's like a brand new game again.
Hey, I've played the beginning of Vampire at least 6 times over the last 20 years.
But I feel like that's one of Vampire's larger problems, is that first area is pretty large and has a bunch of side quests, and everything is it's very well fleshed out, and then after that is kind of, the scope kind of keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love them both. And honestly, I might prefer Vampire as a game myself, just because, for those of you who don't know, I'm a dark gothic kind of guy. Me and Musim are alike in this kindred. We like our dark themes. Boston is the EDM freak in the room. Whereas, and personally, I might like Vampire a little bit more because its themes speak to my soul, my dark, dry, ashen heart.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think Stardew is a better game.
I mean, Stardew's not ridiculously broken and doesn't have like weird pacing problems in terms of what you have to do to progress the story and this and that. And I love Vampire wholeheartedly, but I would not blame you guys for keeping it at this point.
I feel like Moon, I think you've swayed me keeping it at this point, because I think you're right. I think Vampire is a great game. It's a classic for a reason. It's one of those things where it's like, all right, yeah, this is, now I know why people haven't shut up about it in the last 20 years. Like, yeah, it is that good, but Stardew Valley, come on. Come on.
I still can't get the chiptune version of Earth Angel out my head. Every time I see Stardew Valley, I just think of that piece of music.
Yeah. All right, this next one's pretty easy. Saturday Morning RPG at the bottom, right?
Stays right where it is.
That all the way.
Go listen to that episode for a wall of heat.
Just, I encourage everyone to go make a game. I think it is such a cool experience to go make something, or like write a web page, or like code something you've always wanted to see, like learn a new language, something like that. It just doesn't always work out, and that's okay. At least we got limited run games out of it.
Yeah,
that's the silver lining.
Going to be the one point I made. Was the only good thing about Saturday Morning RPG was we got LRG from it.
Yeah. All right, Return of the Obra Dinn obviously is better than Saturday Morning RPG. Is it better than Slayaway Camp?
Yes.
Dude, let's just end this conversation right now. Is it better than Stardew Valley? Is the question here.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. I like a shortcut. I would say yes, because I think Return of the Obra Dinn is, for me, one of the best designed games I have ever played. And I think it is we talked about this. I think it was in the Games of the Generation episode on TVGP back in early November. It's rare that you get a puzzle game. You know, the chorus you always hear about puzzle games is, oh, the game made me feel so dumb until I felt smart, and then I felt dumb again on the next puzzle. I never felt dumb when I was playing this game. I just felt like I hadn't found that little snippet, that one little nugget of information that put like 5 clues all together at once. And it wasn't because I was too dumb. It's just I hadn't yet like turned the camera or realized there were numbers on the hammocks, or I didn't think about who shot this body. Like, you didn't get the information yet. And when that stuff comes together, it feels great. But at no point did I ever feel like, God, if only I had read like more books, I would have figured this game out.
It's also one of the oldest type of game mechanics that has ever existed. Like the lateral thinking, problem solving has been around since pen and paper were invented. Like this is a thing I've been playing since I was a child. But the framing device, the music, the representation, the way they've evolved it, so not just written clues, but video cues, audio cues, language cues.
Yeah, it's almost like a radio play, because like almost all of these, when you dive in with your pocket watch, it's just a black screen, sometimes some text on the screen, and a bunch of sound effects, and you're sort of left to figure out what happened. And I really loved closed room mysteries, and this is like the ultimate closed room mystery of all the people died on this ship in the middle of the ocean. What happened?
You see, and I guess I slightly disagree with you, Moonpeer, in that I think this is a completely unique mechanically game. And maybe that's not exactly what you were saying a minute ago with having always played this throughout your life. But obviously they build on like a lot of old adventure game mechanics and solving by.
I think we actually agree with each other. I think literally it's one of the oldest mechanics, but the way they've updated it and brought it forwards is just perfect. Like, there is nothing else that exists like this.
No. Well, and I feel like most gamers can agree. We all like attention to detail. Like, it's cool when the story matches whatever the mechanic is. It's cool when like the menus do. It's cool when the game acknowledges some weird little thing you did. And while this is no Mass Effect by any means, it's still fun, like the tiny little variations that I guess there's only 3 ending variations, but it's still cool that that's there, and it's cool that the ending is there, and it's cool that they made an incredibly entertaining game out of you being an insurance inspector.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like I'll never forget the very first time you dive in with the pocket watch and you hear the captain shoot at someone and you're staring down the barrel with the bullet coming at you, and as soon as you turn, you notice everything's just a diorama, and that never got old throughout the game. But like, man, that first impression where you're like, holy, like, look at all this. Like, the art style is super cool, but like, man, look at, I can walk around all these things, and it's just, with me and my Switch in like the middle of the night, like squinting right at, it's like, oh, what's this guy? Is his shoes different?
I played this entire thing on my like 49-inch television, like 3 feet away from me, and I still was like squinting at the screen, like,
is that guy's hat the same as this other guy's hat? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's our number 1 game.
Yeah. And I'd never thought about it before, but I think that's a completely true observation. The game never made me feel dumb either.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's really, boy, Return of the Obra Dinn is really great. All right. Next game, the Sexy Brutal goes above Saturday Morning RPG. Is it better than Slayaway Camp?
Is this going to be on me to find out where this goes in the list?
No, I'll have an opinion. I think it's better than Slayaway Camp.
I'll go with that.
Is it better than Poi?
So, for me, yes. As the only person sitting in one of these 3 chairs that played the game, yes, it is better than Poi.
It'd help if I didn't lose $20 trying to play it.
That's the problem.
Still salty about it.
Yeah.
I would agree it's better than Poi, because I think it's interesting because Oberdin and Sexy Brutal have a lot in common, where they're sort of time-traveling, pocket watch-driven, narrative story, murder mystery games. And I think the Sexy Brutal does a whole bunch of stuff really interestingly, and I think it tells a really cool story about the grief that comes from loss.
But then you paid $20 for it on Switch and it runs at 1 frame a second.
Yeah, and it just doesn't function. It's just a real bummer.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm going to put my hands up and say, don't even ask the question, Boston. It stays right here.
Yeah, I think when you look between Sexy Brutal and This Is the Police 2, I think Sexy Brutal is a really cool idea that I think it never... It doesn't have to, but I think it never kind of takes the next step beyond its mechanics. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it just sucks that I can't think of this game objectively about its gameplay or its story, and I'm just stuck on I bought a crap version of the game, and I guess it's my fault for not Googling it, and I've done that with every Switch game after, but it's...
Yep, once bitten, twice shy. Yep.
And yet you actually said that. I can't even remember what it was. I think it might have been the most recent game, Iconfell. Like, you literally said when we were talking about that's the game we're going to play, you were like, I'm Googling to see if it works on the Switch. And good idea.
Yep,
I've already Googled Metroid 2033, and it sounds like they make some reductions in some of the graphics and frame rates to make that work on Switch. So, do it at your own risk.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll leave that there. Oh boy, here comes a tough one. Super Metroid. Better than Slayaway.
Hold on. Let's take the Wii roguelike approach here.
Yes.
We're going to start middle of the field with Super Metroid. Let's get that out the way.
So above Sexy Brutal here.
I would say so, yes.
Okay.
Now the fighting can begin. Let's skip the foreplay and get to the fight.
Right. Let's get to the meat here. Is Super Metroid better than This Is the Police 2?
This is a hard one. So
this is a very hard one.
Maybe we should distinguish. These are obviously our opinions. Super Metroid is a juggernaut in terms of the genres it spawned since it came out 30
years ago. Go where I think it's going to go.
I just don't think it's going to wind up at the top of the list.
No, 100% no.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, it's the same as Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, where it's like, man, yeah, this is a classic for a reason. Like, not only, like you said, Musim, like, it spawned a genre along with Symphony of the Night, but, like, it's just an incredibly tight, super well-crafted game that it is way bigger than I think I ever realized. Like, having not played it, like, I was thinking more of, like, yeah, Metroid 1, like, it's got, like, 2 or 3 areas. Yeah, it's pretty big. But then it's just like, oh, no, this game is massively huge, and there's a bajillion upgrades, and the map, it has an in-game map, which I wasn't expecting on the Super Nintendo, but it's a really great game. But it's...
I do think it goes above This Is the Police 2.
You could convince me, I guess. What's your rationale? I'm curious.
Okay, let me convince you.
Okay.
Obviously, comparing apples and bananas here. That's fine. Whatever. You played This Is the Police 2, and me and you have had this discussion since. You think that you like This Is the Police 1 better.
Just by a smidge, yeah.
Just by a smidge. Just a skosh.
Yeah.
However, Super Metroid, if you would have played it on the SNES, and I'm not saying we should view them all the games like this, Vampire is the best game because in 1986 this would have killed me, and it would have.
Sure.
I think on legacy alone, Super Metroid should be above This Is the Police. Because, don't get me wrong, I love This Is the Police. 1 and 2 are some of my favorite games, period. Yep. Like, they are fantastic storytelling, and I prefer 2 over 1. Also because I was able to get every achievement in 2. Screw you, 1, on your randomness.
Oh God, yeah.
But I think when you look at it, it's like, okay, you can point out flaws in This Is the Police 2. Maybe the strategy battle wasn't as good as you think it would be. The voice acting was a little bit more phoned in-ish from I almost said Jill St. John then.
That's his sister.
which is Daisy Newcomb, not Duke.
Right.
But you look at Super Metroid and you tell me the flaws in that game.
Right. Well, to be fair, I think Super Metroid does have, when you, as someone who played Super Metroid in 2020 and someone who loves the Metroidvania genre and has seen how far it has come since then, I think some of the frustrations that I get out of Super Metroid are a lot of expectations of like, we'll go into this room, it's a dead end, shoot everything. Oh, and here's the ice beam. Like, I don't think that's a knock against the game, because that was the state of games when Super Metroid came out. So it's not like Hollow Knight, where it's like the environment is gently leading me towards the way that the lighting is suggesting that there's something behind this wall. Like, games have changed significantly since then. So I think any negatives I would have for Super Metroid need to be viewed through the lens of, this game is 25 years old, so some of my frustrations were just, it's like it's potentially someone starting Chrono Trigger today, where it's like, yeah, it's a classic, but there's all these little kind of frustration points that if you're starting it nowadays might be larger issues.
I tried and failed to play Chrono Trigger several times.
And I get it. Like, it's the same thing with Super Metroid, where it's like, I think Super Metroid is a classic, and I think it's an incredible game. And I think any frustrations I think that I would leverage would all be kind of minor things.
Yeah. For Super Metroid, I feel like my argument to put it above This Is the Police 2, and I don't know that I would want it any higher, is where the Metroid saves you. Like, I feel like that's a darling, sad moment in the game. Like,
yeah, that's a great scene.
Kind of, you just kind of forget that she has a Metroid following her around at the beginning that kind of caused the issues, And,
right.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
I think that's a really great point, too, because I feel like, as much as I've heard stuff about Super Metroid throughout the years, I feel like I didn't necessarily appreciate the way that it approached and told its story through... There's a little bit of text at the beginning, but everything else is just told in-game between a bunch of characters that don't or can't speak to each other.
Yeah, even teaching you how to do stuff, like teaching you the new moves. It's tutorializing you without giving you a tutorial.
Yep.
Like, oh, how'd you do the slip shine or whatever it is, that super high jump that you do? Watch the kangaroo and do the same motions that it does, and you'll find that you can do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much like, Moon, you and I were sort of celebrating Axiom Verge in the Games of the Generation stuff, which is obviously heavily influenced by the Metroid series at large. And I feel like that Axiom Verge does the same tutorial by doing, almost like tutorial by trapping, as Super Metroid does, where it's like, you fell down a pit, we gave you a new tool. There are no enemies around, just figure out how to use it. Like, you have all the tools now to get back out. Okay, yeah, so Super Metroid. Sounds like Super Metroid 2 is above This Is the Police 2. Does it go above Talos Principle?
I would say yes. Musum has said no. Boston.
Oh, boy.
It does have better music than the Talos Principle. I'll give it that.
Sure. Yeah, Talos Principle a little thin. Yeah. Oh, God. Boy, these are like neck and neck for me. I would probably say it would go above Talos Principle. I think me remembering the storytelling in the game and like a lot of the environmental stuff that's going on is kind of pushing it above Talos Principle. I think Talos Principle does everything really well, and I think it especially does tutorialization really well. And sort of comparing apples to apples here. I think for me, Super Metroid beats it by like a smidge. Yeah. Just think
Here's a fight I will strap in for. I don't think Super Metroid goes above Vampire.
No fight needed, dude. It does not go any higher than this.
No, like we were saying, both are classics and genre definers, and as many superlatives as we can label. And I think Vampire is. I don't think it goes any higher.
The difference between Super Metroid and Vampire the Masquerade is Vampire the Masquerade didn't have the time or budget it needed to be finished.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right, last one. Eichenfell. Where should we start? Should we start this? But let's start below Sexy Brutal here. Is it better than Sexy Brutal?
Yes.
Yeah. It functions on the Switch.
That's a big selling point, yeah. Is it better than This Is the Police 2?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would go for yes. Hey, they're both SRPGs, and this one does it better.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is Eichenfell better than the Talos Principle?
Talos Principle is fantastic with awesome puzzles, but I am smitten with Eichenfell's art and characters and story writing. And Talos Principle has a story, surprisingly.
Right. It's very good.
Yeah. But I think Eichenfell has a greater bill of goods for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. Is Eichenfell better than Super Metroid?
Yes.
Does the game inspired by Super Nintendo art?
Yeah, right.
I like it better than Super Metroid.
Eichenfell is better than Super Metroid.
Is it better than Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines?
Let's have this conversation, shall we?
Man.
Yes, it is. Because you used a great word in the last argument for Eichenfell. You said he was smitten with it, which I think is a fantastic way to describe how you can feel about Eichenfell.
Yep.
For me, slightly tweaking that, charmed by Eichenfell.
Heyo.
It is. I didn't even mean that. I did not mean that to be a dad joke magic pun.
I'll make it.
Yeah, of course you will.
You're set for 2 rounds of charm, Moon. You can't.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm. It's not my type of game, and Vampire is 1,000% my type of game.
Right.
But Eichenfell is genuinely fantastic. Like, everything comes together so well, which is something Vampire is missing, which we've established over the course of this show and the very long show where we talked about that one too, I'm sure.
Right.
As a whole, with minor difficulty things aside, which they very cleverly put options in there to negate that, he's looking at you, Celeste, for a great tutorial on how indie devs can sort that problem out. With minor issues aside, Eichenfell is a genuinely fantastic game.
I will agree with that.
It's I think I love Vampire. Like, if I were scribbling down my own list, I probably would put Vampire at the top, just despite everyone to a degree. But it's a broken game that needs to be remade and have its wrinkles rethought out.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. All right. Is Eichenfell better than Stardew Valley?
No, it stops right here. Sorry.
For me, it is. I think Stardew Valley, for what it is probably a perfect game for what it is, whereas Eichenfell has some issues with the combat. For me, I am not. Stardew Valley is charming. It's a cool farm simulator. I don't really play those. So for me, Eichenfell is my bread and butter. And
me too.
Would duke it out with Obra Dinn for the top spot.
I feel like if you... So this one was hard and not hard at the same time. If it was my list, Eichenfell putting recency bias aside, Eichenfeld would probably be my number one game because there's so much about it that I really loved. Even, last month we spent like almost 30 minutes just talking about the story itself. Like, there's so much about it that's so strong, especially featuring just so much stuff we don't see in games in general. And I think I was really charmed, to use Moon's word, by that. But in the Game Club ranking list, I don't think it goes above Stardew Valley because I think Stardew Valley's problem is its combat. It's boring, but it functions. It's not super difficult. Everything is fine. There's very little wrong with Stardew Valley, sort of as an entire work, as an entire game. Eichenfeld, as we talked about in the Game Club episode, kind of has little speed bump issues here and there, kind of all over it. Not greatly to its detriment, but I think it makes it a less cohesive product, especially when you compare it to Stardew Valley.
Okay, so I'm going to be the editor of this show really quick, and I don't mean an editor in the way that Boston's going to edit the show.
Sure.
I mean an editor like a reviews editor.
Yeah.
You've written a review here that sounds like a 10, Boston, and you're awarding it a 7.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
I think because as much as I like the game despite its faults, I think it still has faults. And I think when we look at something like Stardew Valley, I think it doesn't have that many, even if it's not your cup of tea, it's not, the game doesn't really have many faults, if any at all. I mean, the fault is combat's a little boring.
Well, here is my question.
Yes.
You would personally put it higher on the list.
Yes.
Musum would personally put it higher on the list.
Yeah.
How about we call this a day and say Eichenfeld goes above Stardew Valley and we call the list right there?
We can do that if you want, sure.
I mean,
you love this game. You self-admittedly love this game. I am a sucker for farming games. I do not like JRPGs, SRPGs, generally speaking. Eichenfeld deserves all the props it's getting, and probably more from me, to be completely honest. Stardew Valley is one of my favorite games of all time. But at the end of the day, with 3 people and 2 people like it better than Stardew Valley, it goes above Stardew Valley.
I mean, we can drag out some of the details of these games too. Like Stardew Valley, they're both games basically inspired by Super Nintendo graphics, right?
Both made by small teams.
Yes.
Yep.
They both have phenomenal soundtracks. I like Eichenfeld's soundtrack better though. Stardew Valley does have a story in there. Like, it starts out and you're in a cubicle of all things. Like,
true. Yeah, I always forget about that.
I was not expecting that. Like, it's not a strong story, and it's more of a feel-good game.
No strong story till you start dating somebody, then it becomes hella strong.
Oh,
that's right.
Okay,
that's true.
Like, Eichenfeld, I think, has a strong story all the way through.
Yeah,
I think
slow
all the
start,
side things,
to be fair.
It does take a while to figure out what's going on, but even like encountering the ghosts in this first area, like just the artwork of the ghosts and them having personalities other than we're just monsters, I thought were great.
The professor reveal for the alchemy professor was pretty solid as well.
Yep.
Where it's the gelatin and stuff.
Yep. Really good, yeah.
That was pretty great.
All right, so I guess it does sound like it goes above Stardew Valley then. Okay. But it sounds like it doesn't go above Oberdin for anyone.
For me, 1,000% it doesn't get above Oberdin.
Yeah.
I mean, Oberdin is, maybe there's a fault in there. To me, that's a perfect game.
Yeah.
And I feel like we have an argument to keep Eichenfeld where it is just for the fact that the combat has issues.
Yeah. I would agree with that. All right, well, that sounds like it's our list for those listening at home in the audio version. Let's go from the bottom to the top. Saturday Morning RPG at the bottom, followed by Slayway Camp, Poi, The Sexy Brutal, This is the Police 2, The Talos Principle, Super Metroid, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, Stardew Valley, Eichenfeld, and at the top, Return of the Oberdin. a list that looks significantly different than the one that I thought we were going to get when we came in here. But
the same thing happened last year, though. Like, look at the way we did it last year. We were like, oh, it's going to be easy to decide the top. And it's like, oh, wait, no. Look at all of these ones that we forgot.
Yeah, these were all really good games.
We could say that 2020 has had its issues, but
yes,
our year in game
around
club
about the
has...
Saturday morning RPG time that they started really having its issues.
Right.
Our year in game club, I think, has been pretty freaking great.
Yeah, honestly, we've had
like I would take the bottom 3 off that list. So Poi Slayaway Camp, Saturday Morning RPG. Cut Saturday Morning RPG completely out of the equation.
Yeah.
If you like puzzle games, play Slayaway Camp. If you like platformers, play Poi. Everything above that, I would recommend.
Yeah, go play through every one of them. They're all, for totally different reasons, they were all really great games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was definitely
It's another one of those years, though, where it's like, oh boy, that would sure be Game of the year it came out. If only I'd played it then.
Right. Yeah, just like a list of like, yeah, those were Game of the Year for pretty much whenever it came out. Yep.
I also feel like if we had this argument on a different day, like the top 4 or 5 could be in a different order, possibly.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
1,000%.
Yeah,
like Obra may consistently win more, but
that's a less than a % difference between those 4, I would say.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they're all classics for a good reason. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Appreciate you listening, watching to another ranking episode to help feed whatever is wrong with me that I have an insatiable need to rank stuff. Appreciate there being an outlet, and we'll see you next month for Metro 2033 Redux. Bye.
Bye-bye. Happy holidays. However you celebrate. Have fun. Be safe.